Welcome to the Greenwald Network. My name is Andy Greenwald. It is a wonderful Friday afternoon here in our New York studios because I am joined by Nina Gordon and Louise Post of Veruca Salt, whose new album, their first together in 18 years? Is that correct? 17 years?
Might 17 years, I think. Well, the last one came out in 96. No, it came out in 97.
Yes. Okay. Well, 18 years.
18
Ghost
years.
Notes. It's out now. It's a terrific album. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to talk to you. We've already gone over like a list of our topics. We're going to talk mostly Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I know that.
Thank God.
That was number one. We're going to talk about the 90s.
Yeah.
Like in a lot of detail.
Oh, God, I can't wait to talk about the 90s.
And then like part 3 is just going to be women in bands. What's up with that?
Yeah.
Women in rock, that's our favorite topic, isn't it, Nina?
So this is going to be good, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. No, but thank you really for joining me. I am a fan, and I am a big fan of the new album especially. In doing research before talking to you guys, I came across this interview you did in, I think, 1997, right after Eight Arms to Hold You came out. And first of all, I just can't believe that there was a time on MTV, and I remembered, I watched it, where like Matt Pinfield could be on TV and with guests sitting on crates and being like trading anecdotes about Steve Albini. And this was a national cable network. It was actually crazier than I remembered. Like I think that's how I would have imagined the 90s to be, but it was. Like that's true.
It totally was.
But in this interview, you talk about, Nina, you said something like how you were always a fan of reprises on albums and you wish you could have done a cool one. And Louise, you say, well, we'll have plenty more records to do that. We'll have plenty of time.
Aww, that's really sad.
It was very sweet. And so I wondered, like, did it fall, when it fell apart the first time, did it happen quickly like that? When you were having that interview in 1997, did you foresee many more records and a long run ahead?
Yeah, definitely.
we did. We absolutely did. And in fact, maybe a few weeks before we broke up, we were working on our next album. We were working on what would have been our third album together, full-length album together. So yeah, it all happened pretty quickly.
I will say, though, on a positive note, that our new album, Ghost Notes, the vinyl is coming out this fall, and there are exactly that on the record.
I think three reprises.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
terrific.
And thank you for reminding me of
So
that.
it's come full circle.
It has.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
So in contrast to how quickly it fell apart then, how deliberative was it in terms of getting back together? Because from what I understand, you had to get in touch personally, of course, before you started to reconnect musically.
Well, yeah, but Nina and my friendship has always been synonymous with playing music.
Yeah.
We've never just been buddies. We didn't meet at a party or a bar or college or anything. We met through a friend who set us up on a musical blind date.
Right.
So we started the first day playing music. So while we reconnected, and we had to reconnect on a level that was not music related, and it was really about motherhood and families and child rearing.
And you both find yourself in the same city again, is that right?
Yeah, we're in LA, but we didn't see each other for all those years, and yet.
Well, traffic's terrible.
Well, it is. It's hard to. But we connected on a very fundamental level about being moms, and where Nina was very much there for me during a time when I needed a friend, and she was that person. And I don't think she ever anticipated being that person to me, like at that time, and she was, and it was a surprise to me as well. And yet we didn't see each other until Nina, specifically Nina, had an itch to play music again with me, and I think with the band, and we got together for dinner.
What was the dinner like? I mean, how do you go from having a dinner to actually picking up instruments? And I mean, it had been a while.
It had been a very long while. Well, dinner was great.
What did you serve? I mean, this is really a dinner.
No, we went to a restaurant.
Yeah.
We went to a restaurant. And we talked and talked and talked and talked and got a little weepy and laughed a lot. And we didn't talk about making music. And in that, did we?
I think we did a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we both knew, but I think it was sort of at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then we got together with the dudes, with Jim and Steve, who were in the original Veruca Salt incarnation. And we sat with them and we talked about maybe playing like a reunion show, maybe doing what bands do, like playing American Thighs front to back, at one show in LA or something. And it seemed like that would be great for us. It would be fun, and it would be kind of, it would allow for some closure some healing. But we really did not think we would be doing all of this again and making a new album.
The thing that I love about the new album is that it sounds like a Veruca Salt album. That absolutely sounds, I immediately know who it is. But it really, the songs, the more I listen to it, I can sort of pick up these themes of adult friendship and love and forgiveness, not in a teenage rock and roll romantic sense, but in, coming from people who have lived more of life, let's put it that way. And these are not usually overt themes in rock music, and it's really wonderful to hear that the songs that you're writing are capable of upholding sentiments like that. There's room for them even in these riffs.
That's a lovely thing to hear. Thank you. And I will say it's really nice to be in this place in our lives and to be making music again. And, when I first saw Nina at that restaurant, we had seen pictures of one another and images of one another, and we'd never run into each other. And so it was, we really took each other in for the first time. It was very sweet. It was so nice to see her face again. And we just sat across the table from each other, and so much time had passed, and I just remember her phone kept dinging. And and the last time we were together, cell phones were different. They were like an entirely different beast.
Yeah.
And so, here we were. And our lives had changed so dramatically. We had been through so much. And I think most definitely our music is informed by that now, by all of who we've become. And we really had to get to the bottom of what happened between us and really go through our feelings with, look at our feelings and those experiences in the past under a microscope and really kind of, figure out what happened and be able to really talk about it to get to the other side. And we did, and we are here, and we're here to sing about it.
There are some songs, there's some lines on the song Prince of Wales that refer to specific moments. I remember this, I remember that. And I'm curious, when you had this dinner or even since, do you have the same memories of that time? Is it like if this was the Newlywed Game and I said, when was the last time you saw Louise? Or
right.
What was, any specific moment from that last year? Do you think you have the same memories, or did it play out so differently for both of you? And
well, yeah, both, because we do have a lot of the same memories, but one of the million great things about being back together again is recovering some of the lost memories.
Yeah.
Because there are many things I remember that Louise didn't, and vice versa, or the guys remembered that we didn't. And so many, mostly funny things, like mostly it's jokes we all had together. And so it was great. It was like retrieving all of those lost memories. But a lot of them we do share.
Right,
but I'm shocked even today, like things come up all the time. I'll say, do you remember doing this? And she won't, or vice versa.
Yeah,
And
different memories. But then, and we also had different versions. We had different photographs from our time together.
Oh, right, of course,
so like
yeah.
I got the Joan Jett photo in the divorce, and nothing was on Instagram back
Right,
then. So
yeah.
we literally like divided up the photos in the divorce. We never knew that was going to happen. So
whatever she had at her house, that's what she had.
There.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. In a way, it gives you the opportunity, this amount of time, to sort of autopsy your younger selves in a way, because the younger version of the other was always in the mind of, wait, I'm getting confused, but the younger version of Nina was always in Louise's head and vice versa. And then you can
Right.
sort of revisit it through each other's eyes in a way that's kind of
Absolutely.
amazing. It's kind
And
of
I
intense.
feel like this album is, in a way, an autopsy, or it's like a forensic study of what happened. I mean, that's what the song Eyes on You is about. And about really looking and trying to find all of those like clues. It's things that led to the breakup, things, the things that led to the reunion, everything. It's just sort of, like a very scientific study of what went wrong.
it's like a big geological dig.
Yeah.
We excavated the past.
Yeah.
And the longer you're at it, the more things
Yeah,
uncover
it's true.
and see the
All these
light.
fossils you coming up. No, really, we
Bodies
just
where the bodies are
the
buried.
bodies. Well, there's a lyric about that too.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned Eyes on You. I love that song so much. And one of the reasons why I love it is that I'm listening to it constantly, and I can't tell what it's about, which I think all good songs should be that way. You can have your own interpretations. But sometimes I'll listen to it, and I'll think it's about, young friendships. Other times I'll think it's about being a parent. And the line about wait, don't grow up yet is such a fantastic line, because it's so much of pop music, is we'll stay young forever. And it's very much like this shared dreamland. But wait, don't grow up yet has a certain I don't want to say anxiety to it, but it's like it's a plea. Please don't, because this moment doesn't last. And I think that's a rare moment to capture in a song.
Yeah.
Well, I love that moment of that song, and I can say that because I didn't write that moment of the song. I came to Nina with the beginnings of this song, and when I first played it for her, I teared up, sort of as I am now, because I felt it so strongly, and yet we tabled the song because we didn't have lyrics for it, and it was very much like we were. It was a collaborative effort to come up with the lyrics, and once we got rolling, they started flowing really easily for me. But that one line, we didn't have that one line, and it was driving me crazy. And I was just like, Nina, what is the line? And this is just how she works. She's like, wait, don't grow up yet. I'm like, oh my God, there
just
it
like
is.
That.
Yeah, there it is. She just pulls it out.
You just ask the
like,
oracle.
Here you go. There it is.
Ask the oracle.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
But and then also, there was no bridge, and Nina was like, I'll take care of that. She goes home and comes back the next day with this glorious bridge, and that's how this record came about, which is also a really new thing for us, because when we were in our 20s, we were much more very precious about our lyrics, and we were forming our identities, forging our identities, and finding our voices, and we really needed to say what we had to say, and
distinctly,
right, as much as we were also very much on the same page and shared a lot of the same stuff in our past and stuff that we wanted to get out. And I don't think that either of us, recoiled in embarrassment or anything when the other one had a song. We were very much together with the themes and everything. But now we are so happy to be playing music together again, and we still play off each other, and it very much needs to be a sentiment that we are comfortable with, but we don't even have to look at it that hard,
Well, I think I was about to say bands are fascinating animals, and I think they always are. But it always strikes me as so interesting that young people tend to form bands, but that's at the age when you are attempting to make your own voice as loud as possible, discover it, and shout into it. But to be in a successful band, you have to subsume that voice as part of a larger whole, and that is a tension that can create obviously great art, but it can also create shorter careers.
Yes.
Interesting.
Very well put and explained to us, because we never really thought about it that way. But it is true. I mean, we definitely now in retrospect can recognize how we were very much in need of attention, at the time. And we wanted to share the spotlight. We absolutely did. But when we wrote songs, it's sort of like you picture like a woman in her early 20s, like reading poems, maybe to her boyfriend or something, and like being devastated if he doesn't think it's the greatest thing he's ever heard. That kind of just dramatic narcissism that I think we all shared. And so, it was difficult. And yes, it propelled us, and there was a certain level of competition that kept us, writing songs and writing better songs. And I think that was all well and good, and it worked really well. But yes, I think it did create a shorter lifespan for the first phase of this band.
I would say, as a writer of obviously of very different things, but learning to give and take criticism is something that comes like a decade at least after learning to be an okay writer.
Wow, yeah.
It's much, much harder to do, and to understand that, to separate that what you're putting into the world isn't always all of you, that you maintain some of you even though you're putting these things out there. I feel like that's tricky to navigate.
Totally, I agree. And I think we've gotten better at that. I think we're just really open to each other's ideas now. Once again, part of it is a certain level of humility that we might have acquired over time. Secondly, it's just a celebration of being back together again. Like, I get to hear Nina's ideas now. I get to hear Jim and Steve's ideas now. And I have worked with enough people now to place a much higher value on them, on these individuals' ideas. Yeah. And case in point, again, to reference the album, there's a song called Lost to Me on the album. And I had written what I thought was a complete song. And the chorus fell flat for the band. And And when, and Nina, again, in this case, went home and rewrote the chorus, rewrote the chords to the chorus and changed it and made it a song that was album worthy. And the whole band responded differently. And I really had a moment where my young pride self, just was sort of ouch, oh, should I be embarrassed right now?
Did you snatch the Joan Jett photo back from me at that moment? How dare
I never
you?
got it. I still don't have it.
Okay, we'll work this out off air. I don't want to cause any more trouble.
But as a result, it became a song that we all were able to embrace and be excited about putting on the record, and it became a band song. And that's what's happened on this album. There was so much in our history, there was so much divisiveness around us, and the tendency, and I understand the tendency to sort of divide me and Nina and say Nina song, Louise song. It was a natural tendency, but we're sort of, we are trying to, redirect that tendency right now, because it really truly has become much more of a collective effort, and I'm including the guys, Steve and Jim, when I say that.
I'm curious to hear your take on something that I think about this a lot anyway, that the importance, not the importance, let's say the role of music in your life changes through time as one gets a little bit older. And I think about how, when you're young, or I'll use I statements, when I'm young, and when I'm a teenager and young, in my 20s, music is really a vehicle to get from one place to another and to learn about feelings and things that maybe you haven't had yet. They're placeholder feelings and emotions. And then as you get a little bit older, you actually have some of those experiences and feelings and emotions and love and loss. And then music, your relationship with music changes a little bit. Maybe you don't need the same things from it, but maybe you find deeper things in it. And I'm curious about specifically, as Veruca Salt, as an entity with both of you, what that was like in terms of where you are in your lives. And I'm losing my own question now, but listening to music in your 20s and making music in your 20s versus listening to music and making music now, how that has changed and evolved for you.
Yeah, it is definitely different. When you are a teenager, your music is your identity.
Right.
It certainly was for us. And you would wear, those buttons on your jean jacket or whatever it was. And that was the first thing, the same way now, someone will look at your playlists or look at, you'd see oh, she likes Elvis Costello and Squeeze. Oh, he likes Led Zeppelin, just based on what you're wearing.
And then you would say, I'll stay away from that person because, and it became very militant. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it was everything, it was our whole world, the bands we loved. And yes, I agree. Then as you get a little bit older and you feel, romantic love and pain and despair and all of those things, you can definitely connect. And I certainly as a teenager wouldn't have been able to connect with Big Star because I hadn't experienced depression, or I hadn't experienced a certain kind of sadness. But then in my 20s maybe. And yeah, it's different. It's, I have nothing wise to say except that there definitely were moments before we started doing this again where I thought, wow, music just doesn't mean the same thing to me. It doesn't mean as much to me anymore. I still listen to it and I still want to sing to my kids and, I want to play them all the great music that I love, but I don't feel it on that visceral level. And then this happened again, and it's back. It definitely is. Different types of songs move me now, but I don't think you ever really get back to the way it was when you were a teenager.
No, not in terms of the totality of it, but I really like hearing what you're saying about how, and I agree with it, that you can always find emotion that meets your own in music. It just might not be the same emotion, it might not be the same music, and that's always sort of fascinating to track.
Right.
The battles kind of go away, I find. I was saying to you before we started recording, I used to work at Spin and write record reviews, and I stopped doing it because I didn't want to fight. I liked what I liked, but the battleground of people in their 20s being like, this is good, this is bad,
oh yeah,
we're over here, you're there,
yeah.
That sort of I lost the passion for that.
Right.
That said, I do want to ask about, I know this is your favorite topic, those battle lines were so intense in the 90s.
Oh, God.
I was experienced as a fan, and I really eager to know what it was like to be in the war.
Where did it start? Like, did it start in Chicago? It couldn't have started in Chicago with
fighting?
Steve Albini and Tortoise and like, did it?
I always thought it did. No, but I blamed those guys for a lot.
So did we.
Yeah.
So did we. But like,
Yeah, I think we were directly in the middle of the battle.
The
Like,
epicenter of
like we came
judgmental indie rockness.
Yeah, we came into being right there on the battlefield.
Yeah. Well, you guys met. You said as to play music. You went on a musical date. You played music. That seems separate and apart from these battle lines, and yet you were there. So at what point were you aware of them just being musicians on the scene and being fans of music, or did you run smack into this sort of thing as you were getting the band off the ground?
I think we ran smack.
We did. We ran into it. It was like the hand of hate, like right in our faces.
People hate. I mean, I feel like some of our listeners are obviously going to be people who have been fans of your band for a while, but I do think some people will be fans who are hopefully just discovering your music, and I don't think they understand what it was like.
That's
then.
crazy.
It wasn't okay to have two things that are dissimilar on a Spotify playlist. We didn't have a Spotify playlist. It was you listen to Touch and Go records or you're a bad person.
Right.
You
No,
know?
totally true.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say when we came, when Nina and I were kind of discovering who we were together musically, and the bands we were listening to were like, to name a bunch, like I remember Throwing Muses and Belly and the Breeders. We loved Pod. It was like the Bible to us, and we loved it so much. And My Bloody Valentine and the Pixies, and these were we just loved these bands so much. And we would just play with our songs and do stuff like, oh no, do it like that. It's more Kim, we were just having fun. We were just playing, and we never thought anyone would hear our record in the first place, right? Much less become pretty successful pretty quickly and then have some weird backlash. Like we didn't know what was happening. Yeah. But I found myself being kind of guilty of that because Liz Phair's Exile in Guyville came out when we were working with Brad Wood, and I was hell-bent on hating that record. Well. He did produce it. And I was determined to hate that record, and I found myself loving it. And I thought, oh God, because she was everywhere. And the same thing, and then I realized, oh well, I love it. That's just all there is to it. Yeah. Nina and I both loved that record. And then, the same thing happened to us. Like, we were everywhere all of a sudden, and Chicago doesn't like that, okay? Yeah. And I didn't know, I mean, I probably learned about Slint, and we never were like Jesus Lizard fans per se, but the Touch and Go bands that came out, we listened to Seam and Hum and Red Meat, and all of those Chicago bands, and we would go see them play at the Empty Bottle, and we were like, they were our peers. They were also sort of our heroes, so they were like local heroes to us, and it was really painful for us when we came out on the heels of all these bands we loved so much, and there was sort of like this weird local backlash. And now it seems laughable, right?
Yeah.
But at the time it was, we took it personally.
Hurtful. It was really hurtful. And I remember, and we had heard like Gerard Cosley had said something nasty about us, right?
That was predictable.
Or Jonathan Poneman and Sub Pop, whatever.
Well, he said we sounded like Heart from our demo that we sent him.
Which now I would take as a compliment, but back then it didn't feel like a compliment because people were, you thought about 80s Heart. You didn't think about 70s Heart.
Also, you had to draw a line. You couldn't be that thing that came from a different era or that represented something else. You had to throw that away and be only about this thing.
Right.
And just to be clear, we love Heart.
Yeah.
Heart's great.
Right.
But
but it was hard, and then we were asked. Remember, we were in that Pavement video, and now I feel like, were they laughing at us? Like, what was that? Were we in on the joke, or
was
were we the
from
joke?
The band even there when we did it? I think Scott was there.
No, and Stephen Malcolm was there too.
Did they show up for the shoot?
They were. We're in a Pavement video
as the band. It was called Painted Soldiers.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
And we're the band, like, pretending to be Pavement. I don't know, but at the time we thought we were in on the joke, and now looking back, I'm like,
were we the joke?
Were we the joke? Like what? I don't know what happened. You'll need to look at it and analyze it and decide.
I'm going to do that. Well, that was the song from the Kids in the Hall movie, I think. Or
oh yeah, I think so.
From Brain Candy soundtrack.
Yeah. It was.
Right.
It was.
No, that couldn't be anything.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
but that all seems like worse than high school, Like
you
didn't
was
know, and the cool
school.
kids and the cooler kids, and what were you supposed to have done? That's the thing that I don't understand.
I think we weren't. We
definitely not be successful.
Yeah, no success. Because because there was a little window where everyone in Chicago loved us.
I think it was about a 3-day window.
It was like a 3-day window. We played a few shows and people were like, oh my God, they're so cool.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we were in the MTV buzz bin, we were,
And well, here's the good news. Now, nobody knew that we were making this record. Nobody was looking for this record. No one was expecting this record or our reunion. Like
This new record.
This new record to bring us back to the present. We were not expecting it. We didn't think this would ever happen. So, and no one is telling us, you guys have a deadline. You need to go make this record.
Yeah.
It's totally a labor of love, and it's all for us, for healing. And like Nina said, it's like we have rediscovered music and our love for music through this process. And like her, I was kind of on an indefinite hiatus from music when we reconnected. And I didn't know that I'd ever wanted to make music again. And at that point, and we got together, and I was like, oh my God, that's a great song. Oh my God, I have a song for you. And it just like all bubbled to the surface so fast. Like we had been these dormant artists raising small children, and everything was pushed aside for everything and all the needs of our kids, our young children. And there it all was. Like as soon as I got back together with Nina, it was like right there. Like it was just waiting to come out.
But does it feel the same, or is it the mechanisms of touring, being with fans, playing music together, or do you feel refreshed because you can approach it from this place of you weren't expecting it? You're not on a track. It's just something that you chose to re-enter.
Yeah. Because there doesn't feel, we don't feel that same kind of pressure. When we made American Thighs, we didn't feel any pressure because we had no idea that anyone would hear that record. So it really was just the thrill of being in the studio. Same thing again. And we're not on a major label. We don't have anybody like placing any kind of expectations on us and what we do. It's all for us. And so, no, it's great. And every show we play, it doesn't feel like, we have something to prove. We don't have anything to prove.
Right. And the stakes just aren't like so crazy high anymore. And we are on a label with a really nice guy, and we love being there, but it's a different animal,
Well, I am sorry to go back to this, but I'm constantly fascinated by this sort of false narrative that I feel like as a fan I wasn't sold. I bought it, of course, but I watched you guys this morning. I was watching the Glastonbury performance, which is so terrific and looks like so much fun. And you're playing Seether in front of this crowd of thousands and thousands of God knows what they were on, English kids. Mm-hmm. And there was that moment in the 90s when you guys were who you were, coming from Chicago, and you're wearing ripped jeans and thrift store dresses. But the music industry was still the music industry, right? And I feel like that's the thing that as fans we never really saw. Like you were making your music and being the people that you were, and it was completely genuine, and you were making the choices you were making. But the one thing that always fascinates me is that the same sort of types of people who were intensely focused on profiting from this, not always good people in the music industry, that's a big brush, but just like the over-the-top dinners and the wooing and the label and the marketing with people who, there was no textbook for you guys, right? There was no night course you could take.
There was no map. No. We had no idea what was happening. We really weren't prepared for that. And we weren't prepared for the feeling of everything had to be more successful than the last thing we did. So when Seether exploded, we felt like everything on the heels of that had to be as successful or more. We had to top it. And so that led to a lot of anxiety-induced nights where we would just we would get a video delivered to us that we had just filmed with someone very talented, and we would just obsess about every decision and decide whether or not it's good enough, whether or not we can release such a thing. We were so precious about everything, and we were probably tearing our hair out. It was crazy town, and now we're relatively free of all of that. But it did eat us alive. Like the feeling of we have to be more successful now. This record has to hit the stratosphere, or we might as well throw the towel.
Right. It's either or.
Yeah. And it was this mentality of we don't want to fuck this up. We can't, we've got this precious thing and we don't want to make a wrong move, which is just crazy. That's not what enables creativity and artistry,
Right, and
or art.
enter a total breakdown of interband communication, and you have a breakup on your hands.
Right.
Like the recipe was all in play.
Well, also because of the pressure. If you're just
Right.
internalizing the pressure, and it becomes about maintaining a major label rock band career and not
Right.
maintaining a friendship, a musical partnership, artistic, whatever.
Right.
Those are
Right.
very different things.
And we couldn't really take breaks from each other because we were business partners, creative partners. We were living on a bus together. You know, we were like twins. What were you saying recently about just twinning? You know, there was all of this, you know, where does one start and the other end? Where does one begin and the other end? And getting confused about who we were. Like, wait, I'm Nina and you're Lou.
Yeah.
And
We still have that because we can't tell each other's voices apart. Like
This will be good for a podcast.
on that. Well, our speaking voice is more so, but
Yeah.
when we're singing, like on the album, we can, you know, we're always like, wait, which one am I? Did I sing the high part or did
Yeah.
we sound similar and
we call each other by our daughters' names, which
oh
is
yeah,
kind of
that's
weird.
weird.
in daily life now.
Yes,
Just
like
in-
she's Ivy and I'm
She's
Lila,
Lila.
and yeah, I think it's like, you know, we spend so much time together that
Yeah.
Louise and Ivy are like the primary female people in my life.
Yeah.
So I get them slightly confused, and she does the same with me and your
pops
daughter.
out.
My
That's
daughter, my sister, my
Yeah, but that was a great movie. You know, regardless of whether it was a healthy ending, it was a great movie. The other thing that I was thinking about, though, in terms of your career, is that like Eight Arms to Hold You, I think, is a really good record, and Volcano Girls is such a great song, and I love the video. I always have, and I feel like there were just so many rules that made no sense. And at the time, because here's the thing, here's what I want out of a band, from my perspective. Seether was great, American Thighs was great, but I loved something trying to go bigger, being bigger, not being in, you know, ripped jeans, trying something different. Like, that's what I like in my bands, but the rules didn't let that happen then.
Well, and to be fair, if there hadn't been that sort of underground, like, petty backlash,
Yeah.
we would never have gone with Bob Rock. We thought that was the most punk rock thing we could do.
It was, thank you. To go from Albini to Bob Rock
Yeah.
is the best move ever. I mean,
yeah, and we felt that way. But yes, changing from jeans and vintage, you know, vintage store dresses may have been a mistake. We felt we had to, you know, my brother left the band. He was our drummer
Yeah.
on Eight Arms to Hold You, but then he left before we toured, and he just tells a very funny story about like seeing us when we were opening for Bush and seeing us in those like purple metallic leather jumpsuits, and he's like, when did they turn into the Wiz? Like, we look like characters, we look like the cast of the Wiz. Like, what is going on? I leave the band for 5 minutes and suddenly it's the Wiz, you know? And like, we thought those were awesome, but
my
like
God, yeah.
now looking back, I mean,
I still
whatever,
love
they're
them.
still pretty great.
My husband says, so when was it that you guys switched? It's like you were dressed like, you know, just jeans and T-shirts and boots, kind of like, you know, like teenagers or, you know, people in their 20s. And all of a sudden you grew up. It might have been on a Tuesday. You started dressing up. Everything changed.
It really did.
But, you know, we were sitting there in Hawaii. Bob really only liked to work for a few hours a day. So we had all this time on our hands. We
First of
watched
all,
the Olympics.
Everything about that sentence was great. We're going to revisit. We're going to parse it. We're going to unpack all of it. But please continue.
we were kind of bored. I mean, we had time to exercise. I rode my bike. Nina would read by the pool. There was a jacuzzi. I mean, it was really a cushy summer. Steve was like, he was surfing every day. We just pictured him out there with a cigarette and a scotch. Scotch on the rocks.
He's at work.
And right, and Bob would just breeze in for a while and then go back to his pack of 7 kids and his wife, who was annoyed that he had to work at all.
The Little Rocks.
Yeah, the Little Rocks.
Yeah.
Not so little anymore.
I
but
guess not.
anyway, and so, you know, we sat around and we were making this bombastic, like, massive record. The bigger the better. Like just like our boots, it had to be huge. And so we had all this time to sit there and think about like how we were going to live up to the sound of the record with our clothes.
Yeah.
And what could we possibly wear?
The idle minds. Yeah.
that would match this huge sound. And one thing led to another.
And suddenly it was, come on and ease on down the road.
I mean, it makes sense. It's logical.
Oh my God. It was like, I was made for loving you, baby.
But to be fair, the same brother who was making fun of you at that Glastonbury performance is wearing a Def Leppard t-shirt.
Oh, no. He has no problem with like metal, pop metal.
Yeah.
That's that he wears that literally on his sleeve.
Yes.
But he the Wiz apparently was not what he had intended for us. But
So at some point during those years, like we started by saying that you had intended to make more records together, but was there a moment for either of you where you just looked around or looked down and said, wait, what, how did we get here? Like,
No.
was there a talking heads moment?
I think we felt pretty great about what we looked like and
yeah.
the way we presented ourselves. And we got to be such a good live band. Like on that tour in particular, we toured with Bush, did arenas everywhere around the US and Canada, and we just got really good, and we had wireless rigs, so like we could just like pace around the stage like panthers, and we'd go up these little ego ramps.
And we had learned some moves from Metallica.
Yeah.
Watching them play in this little tiny muddy tent in Tuktoyaktuk. I will repeat that if you'd like.
Please, yeah.
Tuktoyaktuk. And there's a documentary about it now. What's it called?
Like Revenge of the Beer People, or something of the beer
Invasion of the Beer
Yeah,
People.
Invasion of the Beer People.
That's about Metallica?
No,
It's
well,
about
it's
the
about
show
the
we
show
played
we
with
played
Metallica.
for Molson. We went to
The North Pole.
Yeah, and we invaded this like Cree Indian community.
This is
and
terrific.
oh my God, and we stayed in these tiny lodges where everyone was super welcoming and amazing, and there was this crazy concert with Metallica, Hole, us, and a Canadian band called Moist. And
Worst named band of all time, I've always thought.
Oh yeah.
did you say worst name?
Yeah.
It is the worst.
Well, nobody likes the word moist. That's the
No
problem.
one likes the word belly either, but they're a good
I
band.
don't mind. I don't mind the word belly.
Really? Oh, that's controversial.
Really?
We're breaking news on
People
this
don't
show.
like belly.
No, belly and moist.
I knew
are like
about
the top
moist.
two, I find. Yeah.
Belly's not as offensive.
I didn't know about belly.
No,
But I
I
came
don't
around
mind
because of
belly.
the band. But
Yeah.
Right.
and the importance to eating. But go on.
Oh yeah, so Metallica played that show in this small tent with like, I mean, the children there, they didn't have MTV, right? They were like doing Ring Around the Rosie to Metallica. And I mean, there was an intense mosh pit. Like the kids there were as like bright-eyed and excited to see a
Yeah.
rock show as anyone you could ever imagine. And I literally had to leave at one point because I was so overstimulated by watching them in this small venue, because they brought their arena energy to this tiny tent.
Oh my God.
Right? And the beer part is insane because it was a dry town where they hosted this thing.
Yeah.
It was a contest winner, and it was an MTV contest winner thing. And so they literally shipped all the contest winners to a town nearby where they could drink. And by the time they shipped them over to Tuktoyaktuk, they were kind of like really buzzed, but not not drinking anymore. So they're kind of all tired.
It's like a dream crowd.
It's weird. The whole thing was so surreal. And Hole and Metallica, we just saw Lars Ulrich recently in San Francisco. We were convinced that they were staying in the nice hotel in Tuktoyaktuk. But in fact,
The nice tent.
they were all like, they were
like little trailers.
Yeah,
They were
trailers.
just trailers. But there was the Pingo Park and the Tuck Inn.
Yeah.
And
We're
I
like,
can't remember where they were staying, but we thought, they must
were-
be staying at the nice one.
the tuck in.
The Tuck Inn.
I'm impressed. Not only is the new record good, I'm impressed you made it, because I would just want to sit around and just laugh about these old stories.
Well, we
do.
do.
I
We
just
do.
feel like-
I mean, that's the most fun part in remembering what it was like to be a band then. Like when we first all started touring together last summer, we played some shows, and I remembered very quickly, like, oh, our job, like 99% of our job out here is just to make each other laugh all the time.
Yeah.
Like that's all we care about. Like Louise wants to make me laugh.
It's so much more fun to do that than talk about anything like heavy or of import. You know?
Of course.
We get very, very silly together, and it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And my brother's like one of the funniest people, and Steve has his moments. I mean,
Yes, he does.
We do. We spend a lot of time.
I feel like
Cracking
this
up.
all seems so much healthier to me too, because you were able to take the time apart that you needed to like define your lives in a way, so that when you make this band, it's, as we've been saying throughout, it's about friendship, it's about choice, it's about choosing how you want to spend your time while not redefining who you are. You're not giving up any part of yourself to be back in this band.
Right.
Well, exactly. And I do think that if you compare what it's like being a woman in your 20s who is, women who are songwriters, who are, intensely creative as we were at that time. We had no responsibilities to anyone but ourselves at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, motherhood really does change you and change your whole perspective. And, all of that time, yeah, we really do. We're so comfortable in who we are that we don't, none of that bullshit. Are we allowed to swear on this?
We'll make an exception.
Okay.
We are now.
Okay, because I already said the F word.
I know, I noted it.
Okay, thanks. But yeah, and so now, yeah, so it's way more healthy. And obviously you can't go back and teach yourself that, it would not have worked back then. It wouldn't have worked because we weren't there.
Right, and I loved how you put it recently in an interview that I read of yours, when you said we had to go off and become healthy and whole before we could start playing together again.
How have you found the crowds? Are the people coming to the shows people who have been patiently waiting? Are there,
my
are there new
God.
fans? I mean,
Both. They have been patiently waiting, hoping against hope.
That mommy and daddy would get back together.
There's some of
Mommy,
that.
mommy, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
mommy and mommy, exactly.
There's some of that, and it's quite an honor to learn how our music has impacted people. I don't think in our wildest dreams we could have imagined that this many years later there would be people who are so excited that we're back together, and who treasure our music in the way that we treasure others' music. It's incredible to be on the other side of that. Like just the other night, I was saying to Nina, it's just what, me and you. Like, can you believe this? Not to keep the guys out of it, but I was just having a moment with her where we were just undone by the love we were feeling from our fans, and that's across the board. It's in every city we go to, and the love it bowls us over. It really does. And then there is also a new wave of fans coming in, who, interestingly, a lot of teenage girls who are just coming across us right now. And we just received a book full of letters from a slew of 15-year-old girls, and they could have been written in 95, or 98 or 97 or whatever. They were just so familiar sounding,
Yeah.
and yet they're from a different generation. I mean, it's really fascinating. And so our audiences really run the gamut.
I think that's great, and especially because there's a lot of good rock music being made today, of course, but its place in the culture is very different. And to be 15 and be into rock music, it's hard. I would say it's hard to find things. I would say, boy or girl, I think it's probably harder to find some things in the same way harder than it was for us, maybe, even though we had to go to a record store and deal with mean clerks. I mean, you can find it, but I don't know who the Sherpas are to help get you there.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, because there's so much now, right?
There's almost too much. It's limitless, you know what I mean? And I feel like there used to be, and maybe this might be old guy complaining, but I feel like there used to be, I would read a review and it would mention certain bands and influences, and I'd go buy that, and I'd buy that, and I'd buy that, and you could sort of slowly piece together the picture of who you wanted to be and who you wanted to listen to. And now you could just be like, click, and you get all of it,
right?
Which maybe helps your experience, but I don't know. I think it's a little bit different.
I think I can only imagine that people still come across bands that, one by one. I mean, they have to, right? And find a band, then glom onto them.
I hope so.
I don't know.
I don't know. We're going to find it. We'll get some feedback. I was going to say we'll read the YouTube comments under this, but we will never read the YouTube comments. No, that's a bad idea.
No.
I do. She doesn't. I like reading comments.
Do you really?
Yes.
Has to know.
I don't know what it is. I am morbidly fascinated with negative things that people say about me.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't know what that is. I always have been. I think part of it is my fear of seeming like I've been duped in some way. Like, I don't like the idea that someone's written it and that they think I might not know about it. You know what I mean? I feel like I need to be in control by knowing
the conversation.
Well, yeah, or just by I need to know all of it. Like, I don't want to be kept in the dark. If there are like some really bad reviews, I want to know about them.
Okay.
Because I don't want people feeling sorry for me.
Okay.
You know what
So
I mean?
send
don't.
them to her,
Send
not
them
to
to me, but not to her.
Okay,
she
fair enough.
doesn't like them.
I know I have to let you guys go, but Louise, I have to ask. I mean, we before we started, you said that you have a particular way of singing the Game of Thrones theme song,
Oh
and
my
I feel
God.
like generally I spent a lot of the year talking about Game of Thrones, and I really think that you've figured it out. I think you've cracked the code because people make fun of the opening credits. They're very, very long, instrumental,
Right.
and I'm sorry to put you on the spot like this,
She'll do
Please,
it.
I'm
She'll
so
do it.
excited.
but I think it's really. I think you've.
If I know Wheezy, she'll do it.
I just think she's found a way to like verbalize what all of us feel with that show, like really the core message of the show, you know, for the fans.
So it goes a little something like this. Killing horses, killing babies, killing doggies, killing children, killing kids. Killing horses, killing babies, killing doggies, killing children, killing kids.
And then just loop that for 8 minutes.
Killing horses, right. Just keep going.
And then castles are built, you know, the whole background. I think it's perfect. Yeah, I think, and if you don't watch the show, you now understand it.
Exactly. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, it's perfect.
There it is. Just if you want to see some horse murders, a lot of them.
Yeah.
See some beautiful spiritual wolves done away with. And babies murdered. It's great.
You're
right?
tapping into what America wants. I think you've really
Do it
you've
one more
cracked the
time.
code.
For you?
Yeah.
Killing horses, killing babies, killing doggies, killing children, killing kids.
Yeah, the interpretive dance. I didn't know if you were going to come in with a little harmony. Or
Yeah,
a
no, I've never
counterpoint.
heard this one before.
Okay,
I've never
maybe
heard this.
You could work it up for,
Yeah,
in the future.
for tonight, for our show tonight.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
so it'll be Game of
ooh.
Thrones themed. Okay, we'll leave it at that.
Killing babies, killing. What else do we kill?
Doggies.
Doggies.
If you,
Hear Jennifer laughing
if
at
you
me.
run short, just think of something that is cute and beloved.
Okay.
You could throw,
Killing bunnies.
you could throw bunnies
Yeah?
in.
Okay.
Yeah, bunnies.
Okay.
But I'm a wuss. You know, I told you before we started this interview that I was done after the red wedding.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it anymore. I'm a mom. I can't take it.
It's a
the
lot.
gratuitous kniving of the, you know, just
Plus,
we're done. The
you sort of
stabbing.
know the world, so you just assume everyone you used to watch has now been stabbed.
Well, right. I mean, the people I love keep getting offed. I just can't take it. And Joffrey wasn't dead yet. I just couldn't take it anymore.
However, considering the way you feel about online commenters, you'll probably love this show. I feel like this is an interesting. Well, okay, this is a divide we'll work on next time we talk. Louise and Nina, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. Ghost Notes is out now, and it's a terrific record by Veruca Salt. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.